Hi, this is Ron with Install It Direct. Today I'd like to go over the reasons why you should have your air conditioning unit removed by a professional before we come out to do our paving stone patio. Typically on a new build like this, they place the unit on top of native soils. But when we come in to do our pavers, we're going to be about 2 inches below your weep screed line. So we're going to actually be building up. By building up, if we left the unit where it is right now, we would be creating an area for the water to flood and enter your air conditioning unit, which we do not want to do. So by having the air conditioner pulled out before we come in, we could do our paving stones, and then you have the air conditioning unit put back in place. Today I'd like to introduce to you Greg Freeman with Tropical Heat and Air, and he's going to explain the entire process to us today.
Good morning, Ron.
Thanks for coming out, Greg.
Thank you for having me. So this is your air conditioning condensing unit right here. And the process that we'll do to remove this unit is we will turn on your air conditioning unit and we will let it run. As the unit's running, we will be able to isolate the valves. We have some valves down here at the bottom of the unit which are able to be closed. So what we'll do is we'll let the unit run, and we're going to use this unit to pull all the refrigerant that's in the system into the outdoor condensing unit, and then we'll go ahead and we'll isolate that with the valves, holding all the refrigerant in this. At that point, what we'll do is we will cut the refrigeration lines that are coming out of the house. We'll also disconnect the line voltage power, which goes to your disconnect here on the wall. There's also a low voltage control, which will also be cut and placed with the line voltage power. All of that will be protected. The refrigeration lines will be protected, the electrical will be capped off and protected, so will the low voltage control wiring. After everything's been disconnected and has been capped off or protected, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll remove the condensing unit, and we're going to just set it aside. At that point, that will allow them to come in and level the whole area, put the pavers back in, and once the paving process is all completed, at that point we'll come back and we will reset the air conditioning condensing unit on top of your new pavers. After that's completed, we'll go ahead and we'll redo the line set, the line voltage power, and the low voltage power, connecting everything back up to the unit, which we're going to show you here in just a moment, how that process is all performed. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next project.
Yeah. So Greg, does the homeowner need to be home for that first visit, or can you do it without them being there?
Well, we do need access to the thermostat. Okay. We need to be able to turn the unit on by the thermostat and have the indoor unit operational also when we pull all the refrigerant back into the condensing unit. So either them being home is great, or if we could just have permission to enter, possibly leaving a key behind or something like that, where we can get in, just turn on the thermostat.
Okay, very good. And then how about for reconnecting?
Reconnecting, same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah,
okay.
we would
like to turn it on and access it.
Yeah,
okay.
And once we're completed, we'd like to be able to turn it on, just make sure everything's operating like it was prior to us disconnecting.
Okay, very good. Excellent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to a project that we have recently finished with the paving stones. It's all completed, and Greg and his team are there right now reinstalling. They probably already have it all done, but we'll go over exactly what they did to reinstall. So, thank you. Okay, well, we're at a completed project right now, and Greg and his team with Tropical Heat and Air have just reinstalled the unit. And now Greg's going to go over the details and what they did to get that back into place and operational.
Okay, so this is what it will look like when we're all done. As you can see, the pavers are underneath. The unit's been raised up. We've kept the pad that was under it just to give it that added extra elevation. In doing all of this, though, we built up the surface probably at approximately maybe 6 to 8 inches possibly. We've gone from the natural soil up to the bottom of the air conditioning unit. So In that process, what we've done is we've raised the refrigeration lines from where they were previously. We've reconnected the electrical power, the line voltage power. We've also reconnected the low voltage power also. Now, the key in all of this is when we reattach the unit is to pull a vacuum on the system. And what we'll do is we'll hook up a vacuum pump, and we're going to let that pump run for about 35 to 45 minutes. And what that'll do is that'll pull all the air that was collected in the refrigeration line set while it's been disconnected. This is very important. We're going to pull the system down to about 30 microns, which is just negative pressure, which is removing all the moisture from the system and basically just clearing those lines of any air that may be in there. Once that process is completed, once we've pulled the vacuum, everything's been rehooked up, at that point we'll go ahead and we'll open up the valves on the air conditioning unit, which will release the refrigerant back into the system. Again, with the vacuum being pulled, we're releasing that into what we would call a pristine environment. No moisture is inside the system, and that's the key. So once we've opened up the valves, we're basically ready to turn the system back on. We'll go ahead and we'll turn it back on, and we're going to make sure that the system operates the way it did prior to us removing it. Okay. If everything was done properly, everything should work flawlessly. So that's it. That's the whole process of the removal and the replacement of the air conditioning unit.
Very good. How long of a process would you say, like process to phase 1, phase 2? I know you have to, it's an on-off kind of thing.
Right.
Like a total.
So phase 1 takes us approximately maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do the whole process. Okay. Depending on the size of the job that we're doing. The downtime for the air conditioner, that's going to vary depending on how big the paving process is. Okay. And then once we return back to the job, again, it's about an hour, hour and a half for us to reestablish the system.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And then Greg, so common question from homeowners is why can't we just lift the unit up? But we found like with the copper piping and everything, it's very hard to move that. So.
Right, you're dealing with rigid copper, okay. And it's very easy to kink copper. And unfortunately, once copper kinks, typically it's going to block off a whole line. That's what we're trying to avoid in removing the whole system, is to prevent kinks in the copper lines. Also, since we are coming up, we're raising the unit up, and we're dealing with rigid copper. Right. At that point, the whole dynamic of how the copper was ran originally is going to change completely. Okay. And there's oftentimes too that the homeowner will decide to maybe relocate the unit slightly also, maybe change the original position to a little bit different position, which is very beneficial sometimes.
That makes sense. Great. Yeah. Well, very good, Greg. I appreciate coming out today and explaining all that to us.
Thank you, Rob.
Again, it's Greg Freeman with Tropical Heat and Air, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.